President Trump arriving back at the White House via Marine One.
Economic protests in Iran take a deadly turn.
A leaked memo from inside Iran appears to show panic at the highest levels of the Iranian government.
President Trump encouraged the Iranian people. Time for change.
I think it shows us that contrary to what people have been saying about Iran being a regime that is very unified, you actually have at least a large contingent that is not pleased with Iran.
Congress gets set to tackle the administration's wish list for 2018. First item on the White House agenda, a meeting with congressional leaders to avoid a government shutdown.
There will be a deal on DACA. When you address the DACA issue, you have to address the broader issue of illegal immigration.
California officially becoming America's first sanctuary state. It's going to be a great year.
It's a brand new one.
What year is 2018? Remember we used to write checks, you'd have to remember to put 18 and change the year?
What's a check?
Exactly.
No, I still write checks, and I'll add this to it. That opening of that football game yesterday was as good as any Super Bowl at the Rose Bowl, which was one of the semifinals, which was one of the most traumatic games in double overtime that Oklahoma suffered the loss to Georgia. But in the end, that was patriotic opening was unbelievable.
Now Georgia and Alabama play each other.
Yeah,
and the way they flew the B-2 over, because even though you can't see it on the radar, you can see it in real life, and it is so scary looking.
Right, and everybody stood, and over 100,000 people
college
showed
football.
up.
I've been telling you, you got to do the college football thing.
Right, and then
Carolina won yesterday. The game Cox. Did you watch?
I did.
Yeah, that was a big game. We came back.
Oklahoma lost. Never mind. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. We're back to business, and so is the President of the United States. President Trump came back from Mar-a-Lago yesterday, flew out of PBI at 4 o'clock, and now he's sitting down. He's got a whole bunch of stuff on his things to do this year list.
That's right. What's behind him? Tax reform. What's ahead? You got the wall, DACA, infrastructure, and government funding. That has to be done by January 19th.
Yeah, it's got to be done by, DACA can wait till March, but they want to put it into the Democrats right away. There's going to be a major meeting this week among of all the leadership. It's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be at the White House. And of course, even the Republicans aren't necessarily on the same page about what they want to do next. If you talk to Paul Ryan, he's like, let's do welfare and food stamps reform. You talk to Mitch McConnell, he says, sorry, I got a 51-49 majority. That's not going to get done. I'm looking to do something bipartisan. And maybe the first step is getting this spending bill done, and then you weave in immigration reform. Stop chain migration, get rid of the lottery, build up the border wall, and get your DACA. Will Senator Schumer go for that?
Well, ultimately, what's going to happen in Washington is something where each side is going to wind up with something. If the president is going to wind up with immigration, the Democrats are going to wind up with some sort of DACA thing. When I say immigration, I mean the wall. That was clear by the president, his tweet a couple of days ago. He wrote, the Democrats have been told and fully understand that there can be no DACA without the desperately needed wall at the southern border and an end to the horrible chain migration and ridiculous lottery system of immigration, etc. We must protect our country at all costs. Two U.S. Senators, Cornyn and Grassley, have suggested the Secure Act, and what that does is it pairs DACA extension with border security.
Right. The only thing I'd like to add quick is for those out there who think the Democrats are just going to run out the clock and wait for 2018 because they seem to have the political advantage, I cannot believe how much pressure they are getting on the left to come up with some type of DACA reform. Senator Schumer had his office stormed into. Remember, Nancy Pelosi had her press conference interrupted. MoveOn.org is warning Democrats, you've got to get something done on this. So maybe the president does have a little bit more leverage than he might appear.
We're going to have Kelly and Conway on to talk about that at 7:30. Meanwhile, let's talk about Iran. If you've been watching these protests, there have been 40 different cities at least with these protests. 13 people are dead at least. People are holding up signs that say death to the dictator. The leader lives like God while the people live like beggars.
Wow. Yeah, indeed. These are the largest protests in Iran since the year 2009. And essentially what's going on is the young people, the moderates who have like President Rouhani, they don't like him now because he's so in lockstep with the Ayatollah. Ultimately, he might be the president, but the Ayatollah gets to decide everything. And the young people simply don't like his economic management. There was a University of Maryland poll that came out not long ago, based in Iran, and what it said is half of the country's young people say that they're headed in the wrong direction, and they want to do whatever they can at this point to try to force something new. Does it mean getting rid of President Rouhani? They kind of like him. Ultimately, they would like to get rid of the Ayatollah.
They are chanting death to the Supreme Leader, which, by the way, is my title. That's I call myself here, Supreme Leader. I would also add...
You're the only one who thinks that.
Which is a shame, and there should be more momentum behind that. But I was fascinated by this leaked memo that I believe Catherine Herridge got yesterday from internal communications among the leadership in Iran, which, by the way, their GDP is growing at 7%, but the people feel none of it because $1 billion goes to Syria's line of credit, $700 million go to Hezbollah, and even more goes to Hamas. They quote this: the United States officially supported the people, quoted this on the Iranian protest, the United States officially supported the people on the streets. They all united in support of the hypocrites, meaning MEK. That's the group that wants to overthrow the Iranian regime. They're all Iranians, MEK. The infidels and MEK are united for the first time.
Infidels meaning us, the West.
That'll be us.
So this was the Catherine Herridge's report was the meeting. Who was in that meeting? The Ayatollah was in it, political leaders, heads of the country's security forces. They were talking about how we're going to end these protests. We've got to tamp down these protests because, A, it's putting us at risk, our security at risk, but also we need to look like we're unified, and clearly we're not to the rest of the world.
Well, you know who's unified? The president's cabinet and the president himself. They think these protests are a good thing because it could actually force a change in Iran. The vice president tweeted out, as long as real Donald Trump is POTUS and I am vice president of the United States of America, will not repeat the shameful mistake of our past when others stood by and ignored the heroic resistance of the Iranian people. It's kind of a shot at President Obama, as they fought against their brutal regime. The bold and growing resistance of the Iranian people today gives hope and faith to all who struggle for freedom and against tyranny. We will not let them down. Hashtag Iran protest. So what's happening right now is the Trump administration is suggesting new sanctions against Iran if they clamp down on the protests.
Right, and that's one thing is for sure. There is a risk, as has been brought up, Ambassador Bolton, over the weekend. If you say, hey, Iranians rise up and we don't come to their aid, then we look like the bad guys. And that's exactly what happened when the Shia rose up after the first Persian Gulf War, and George Bush 41 did not come to their aid. They forever were bitter towards us. So you got to kind of walk the line a bit, show in support. Remember, they chanted in 2009, where are you, Obama? Because President Obama decided to sit it out and said almost nothing. And meanwhile, his staff, his former staffers are speaking out now. Now, normally the axiom when it comes to Susan Rice is see what she says and do the opposite. I think that applies here again. She tweeted this out. How can Trump help Iran's protesters? Be quiet. Oh, really?
Then Samantha Power, she was the former U.S. ambassador to the UN, she said, we stand with the Iranian people so much that we won't let them come here.
Keep in mind, there are so many people on the political right who say, given what's going on in Iran right now, it looks as if President Obama wanted that Iranian deal so badly he forgot about the people. And those are the people on the street. Here's Molly Hemingway. You know her. She's a Fox News contributor. Here's her observation about what's going on over there.
It's just been quite dramatic to follow this news over the last couple of days. I think it shows us that contrary to what people have been saying about Iran being a regime that is very unified, or the country being unified, and everybody is emboldened by their shared hatred of Donald Trump, that you actually have at least a large contingent that is not pleased with Iran. They aren't pleased with their foreign intervention. They're very upset with the corruption of the regime and the bad economic effects of that. And so whether a regime change is likely is a huge question. I don't think it's likely, but this is still a dramatic turn of events.
Is Europe. They sit there, they have this Iranian deal, we give them all their cash, release all the sanctions, the people don't benefit at all, and the American president of the United States, who they like to say is unqualified or not ready for prime time, however they want to do it in their native language, they should be standing up saying the Iranian people, the Iranian regime, allow the people to stand up and for the humanitarian angle of it, but they don't say a word.
Well, Iran's their gas station, and so
they don't need Iran's gas. They were able to sign on to the sanctions, and they were not even taking Iran's exports.
They just have handled Iran with kid gloves for so many years, and now they got a chance to do something.
It's interesting to see how other countries, first we saw it with Brexit, then we saw it with Donald Trump, with President Trump. Now we're seeing it in Iran. People are standing up. They've had enough. They've had enough of the old leadership, and they want change. Our own president said it's time for change. He said the Iranian people have been repressed for many years. They are hungry for food and freedom.
Right, and you know what is rallying the people over there? Their smartphone. They got an app called Telegram, and they've been trying to shut it down. The government has it's on, it's off, it's on, and it's off. Nonetheless, it just goes to show you the power to the people in their hand, and that's why they showed up, despite the fact that the government said, you can protest, but don't break anything. They broke stuff, and now a lot of people are.
Wouldn't it be great if we use our cyber technology to help the people communicate? So to undo some of the shutdown that they're putting forward.
Well, we're using this technology to show you the news. And that's why Jillian joins us with
Happy New Year. Welcome back. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in forever.
It's been a while.
I know. Well, it's good to see you again. See you. Good morning to you at home. Let's begin with a bit of a tough story here, guys. An emotional candlelight vigil held overnight to honor a fallen sheriff's deputy in Colorado. Hundreds gathering to remember 29-year-old Zachary Parrish, killed in an ambush attack on New Year's Eve. He leaves behind a wife and 2 young daughters. His 4-year-old trying to comfort her mom at the vigil. Take a listen.
I want to hear about him, and I want to soak it in.
The gunman, Matthew Riel, was an Iraq War veteran and lawyer who ranted against cops online. He fired more than 100 rounds on Parrish and other deputies before being killed by a SWAT team. We're learning more about the victims of the deadly New Year's Eve plane crash in Costa Rica. 10 Americans killed when a charter plane plunged into the woods and burst into flames. Among the dead, Amanda Geisler of Wisconsin. The 33-year-old was a tour guide and former college basketball star. 2 doctors from Florida also killed, along with their teenage children. And the entire Steinberg family from New York pronounced dead. The NTSB is investigating. Thousands of passengers at airports nationwide stranded for hours after the U.S. immigration's passport system stopped working overnight. The Customs and Border Patrol glitch forcing agents to process travelers through a slower backup system, sparking massive delays. The outage lasting nearly 2 hours, but is back to normal this morning. That's a look at your headlines. I will send it back. Oh, that's a nightmare for everyone. I'm sure they miss their connecting flights. I'm sure.
Thanks, Jillian.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, coming up on this Tuesday, Fox News alert anti-Trump protest happening right now in the country of Pakistan after our president slammed the country on Twitter. So what happens next? A former member of Trump's National Security Council transition team will weigh in.
And it's not just Hillary Clinton being extremely careless with emails. The bombshell new report about what Uma Abedin was up to.
Fox News alert now. Protesters are angry with President Trump gathering, and they're gathering in Pakistan to speak about it. President Trump tweeted this out. The United States has foolishly given Pakistan more than $33 billion over 15 years, and they've given us nothing but lies and deceit, thinking of our leaders as fools. They give safe haven to terrorists like bin Laden, that's my ad lib, with no help, with little help, no more. Pakistan, just the latest target for President Trump as tensions grow in Iran and North Korea. Kim Jong-un warns he has a nuclear button on his desk, which he doesn't, but he's getting close. So what does that say about the Trump doctrine? Here to weigh in is Fox News policy analyst Kyron Skinner. On Pakistan in particular, the Pakistanis have called in our ambassador to rebuke him after the president's tweet. Where are we going here, Kyron?
I think we're actually facing a time of reckoning with Pakistan. For decades, we've played footsie with that country as we've attempted to combat global terror. But now it's a period in which we have realized that we have to take very firm action with Islamabad, or nothing will happen. And so that's where we are. And President Trump is trying to start the year with a very firm message to the Pakistani government that its continual support for the Haqqani network in Afghanistan and harboring the Afghan Taliban will make it impossible to have an effective counterterrorism strategy. The goal here is to try to find a way for the Pakistani government, especially its intelligence service and its foreign ministry, to understand that it has to join firmly with the U.S. on counterterrorism, or really there's no relationship.
Well, it's true.
We have to align our interests.
And we just don't have that much time. As a foreign policy analyst looking at this from 3,000 feet, you have a situation where the Pakistanis do have a little bit of leverage on us. If we want to supply our troops through land, they have the border crossing. And they already did this once about 6 years ago. They shut it down, backed us up. It cost us a lot of money to use our aircraft carriers to resupply our troops. And that could come down as early as today because we've decided not to spend give them a $255 million check at this time, which we had come in their direction, and they are contemplating what to do next.
I don't actually think they have much leverage on us because we also have a growing relationship with India, and they're really worried about India's